Next presenter, Mr. Gary Thompson. He's with a company called Brixton Metals. Brixton Metals has a very diversified portfolio, properties portfolio in BC and Ontario, Eastern Canada, as well as in Montana, the United States. Thanks for being here. Gary, please.
Great. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so I'm a geologist by training. Started Brixton in 2010, so we're approaching a dozen years now. It's our safe harbor statement because I may be making some forward-looking statements. So our strategy, really we're an exploration company focused on copper, gold, and silver, and looking to unlock value through the drill bit. We've got a strong technical team focused on exploration. And the company's focused on a flagship project called Thorn. It's up in northern British Columbia. However, we do have several other projects, two of which we've monetized recently. We signed a deal with recently listed Ivanhoe Electric, which is one of Robert Friedland's new US IPO. And Hog Heaven's part of that deal. So that deal structure is $44.5 million US. 11-year earn-in, where they can acquire 75% of the project, and a part of that deal is $4.5 million US to Brixton. So it does provide some cash flow to us, and also basically frees up our team as Ivanhoe Electric is the operator. The other project we farmed out is the Atlan Goldfields camp. This is a placer gold camp that the idea there was to find the source of all that placer gold. They've been mining there for the last 120 years, so kind of similar to a Barkerville gold story, if you followed that story. That's in the hands of a company called Pacific Bay, another junior, and it's a cash and work and share payments to get 100% of that, where we can retain at 2%. So that, again, frees up our team. We do have another asset in Ontario for silver, cobalt, and nickel. We are doing some drilling on that, but I want to focus today on is our flagship, which we believe is the big value creator in the company. I guess, with the time constraint here, I'm not going to spend too much time on the copper. I think most people appreciate the electrification of our economy is really going to be important to copper and copper production, and new copper production. And you can't move electrons rather, without copper. So I think that's encouraging for us because we tend to have a lot of copper in our portfolio. November 2nd, we announced BHP is making a strategic investment in Brixton Metals. So this is a pro forma statement here. So we'll end the year with about 19 million. And part of that transaction is Crescat will be topping up as well. So our two largest shareholders, BHP will be 19.9 and Crescat somewhere around the 14% mark. So in a good position going into the year, and a huge endorsement for the company and for the team and for the asset. And a lot of people have been asking why did BHP make this investment in Brixton Metals, and I'm going to try and explain that in our asset. So where it is, it's in northern British Columbia, and it's, I guess, kind of north of what everybody knows refers to as the Golden Triangle. And it's kind of interesting because it is a relatively underexplored part of the province, and we'll say historically has been infrastructure challenged, but I see that as an opportunity. We believe we have a path to building our own port. If you look at that, the big orange block there on the top of your screen, there is a little appendix that sticks out to the Alaskan-Canadian border. We believe that there is a path to tidewater. We're actually not that far, about 50 kilometers from U.S. tidewater. There is road access to the southern end of the property from the old Golden Bear mine that shut down in 2000. It was a high-grade gold mine. Most of the access is via fixed wing. In 2011, there was a airstrip established on the new camp that's really opened up the area for us to explore this area, but it is serviced right now largely by helicopter. We are actively engaged with the local First Nations. We have Tahltan and Tak River Tlingit, and this year we had about 25% of our workforce were First Nations and First Nations contractors, so we continue to work on that relationship. We do have strong support for the project. And it really is a district scale project, and it's the copper gold is the primary commodities here. In 2018, the BC government geologist did a reanalysis of their 79,000 RGS data points, and interestingly, the area that was just south of where we were working around Camp Creek lit up as one of the largest, highest ranking porphyry anomalies in the province of British Columbia. In 2018, it was largely open ground, except for the ground that we originally had in 2010. So we staked it, and we've done 2-3 property deals since then to amass this nearly 3,000 square kilometer land position, the largest in British Columbia. It's almost the size of Croatia, so pretty remarkable that a junior was able to amass this scale of land. Each one of those green squares represent a 1% copper assay from rock. And so it's a big area. We've identified at least 14 target areas. And because it's such a large area, we've been only able to really focus on a few of them, but we continue to do work on other targets and working those up to the drill ready stage. Most of our budget this year, we spent about $13 million in the ground, drilled about 18,000 meters. And most of that was focused on the Camp Creek and the Trapper targets. We've done about 500, collected about 500 rock samples, over 1,000 soils, and several geophysical surveys as part of that program. Here's the same map just showing gold now, because it is largely a porphyry camp with copper gold. Some targets are more copper weighted, some are more gold weighted. Most of them have copper and gold. And each one of these squares represent 10 gram gold. So lots of 10 gram gold, lots of high grade gold kicking around. And we're excited because we're really on the discovery path here. And interestingly, we've been working this Camp Creek target, and not only Brixton, but many other companies before us, because of the high intense alteration that you see on the property. But it wasn't until just recently we started to push these drill holes deeper, which we've effectively made a large-scale porphyry discovery by pushing these holes deeper. And now we're on to pretty significant copper, gold, silver, moly porphyry. It is a blind porphyry, so it doesn't crop out at surface, but it is large. And now we've got about 6 deep holes into it. It is open in many directions. And if you look at the footprint of the veins and the breccias that we see, which is what everybody was drilling historically, it's about 1 kilometer by about 2, maybe 3 kilometers to the east. And I say maybe because it actually goes under young volcanic cover. We got about 1 kilometer exposure of alteration, and then it goes under cover. So I think this is an interesting target. Here's the cross-section of the drilling that we've conducted to date. We're drilling nearly 1,000 meters of mineralization. These holes are open-ended. And what's important to note is where those colors are hotter and the sort of pinks and magentas, those are the high-grade sections. So if you look at that 150 meters of 0.87, 365 of 0.67, we see this as a potential large-scale block cave underground mine. And I think the one thing important to note is that the largest underground block cave mine in the world, it's in a mine called El Teniente in Chile, 2 billion tons of 0.8 copper. So that's the kind of scale and scope of kind of how we see this thing. I'll skip through that. It's just showing a ranking of where we see these, some of our holes at the Camp Creek, how it ranks up to other world-class copper deposits. We believe that the best mineralization is yet to come because we're still in the sort of porphyry and interbedded host rocks, the sediments, and we've yet to get fully into the core of the system. So we believe that there's still some spectacular drilling to come from this. Now just shifting gears quickly onto the Trapper target. This represents really the other half of our budget for 2022. You can see the anomaly here. This is an 11-kilometer long gold anomaly. This is where most of the work was done historically. And if you just sort of look at the bottom part of that anomaly, the Trapper anomaly is about 4 kilometers. I mean, and if you had one of those, just by itself, you'd be pretty excited. So we spent some time there. And the reason we got excited, in fact, we didn't own the main Trapper claims till about 2020. We acquired those from Kodiak Copper in 2020, and then we quickly got boots on the ground there. And if you look at on the far right there, we've got some amazing gold samples from surface rock grab samples as high as 135 gram gold. So we quickly started drilling in here. And you can see some of the results on the map here. Hole 205 that came out this summer, 64 meters of 5.7 grams of gold. Pretty remarkable hole. Lots of visible gold. You can see the little yellow stars. Those are all visible gold hits in the core as we've been logging. Those little light blue traces are results that we've yet to publish. We think we have about 80% of our results still sitting in the lab. So waiting on that. So this is really our second season drilling this target. This represents about 350 by 350 meters down to maybe 300 or 400 meters. I think lots of room to grow this target. It's an exciting new target. So we'll be certainly getting some more work on this target. It is related to base metals. That's a base metal veins in there with the gold. And where we see galena, chalcopyrite, bornite, or sphalerite, we know we're going to get gold even if we don't actually see the gold in it. So it looks like. Who doesn't like to see visible gold in the core? Pretty nice. And then we were fortunate enough to get out to the Metla target this year. This is a brand new, I think, discovery in the making. And why we're excited about this target is all the bornite that we're seeing, chalcopyrite. So if you look at chalcopyrite, it's about 24% by weight copper. But if you get bornite, you're up in the 62% copper. So that's exciting to see when you have bornite. And so what's great about this target, for us at least, is a couple of years ago, this material was under ice. Like we're actually putting boots on the ground, sampling high-grade copper and gold at surface that was never sampled before as it was under ice really a couple of years ago. So this represents, I think, a discovery in the making. It's early days. This is really one season of boots on the ground. So keep an eye on this target because we're planning to hit this pretty hard next year. And that's what it looks like. And I've done a lot of work in the bush and usually don't see visible gold and bornite, but we're pretty excited to see visible gold and bornite in the same sample. So yeah, nice target. So in summary, I think Brixton's got a great portfolio of assets, and obviously we're of strong backing now. We're well financed going into 2023, and I think it's a great opportunity. So keep an eye on Brixton, and happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good question. We get that question a lot. Well, it's really, I think it's, BHP is a copper company, nickel, they're base metal focused major, obviously. I mean, our Camp Creek has been the most advanced target that we have. We're showing scale on that project, that scale like, I'm going to say like a Pebble or a Bingham Canyon scale, not a small system. Yeah, it's deep, but it's big. Porphyry style, and if you look at the other targets we have, the sheer number of copper targets that we have on the project, I think, is unmatched, and I think that's the attraction. What does BHP want? Well, they want to build the next copper mine, and we believe we don't necessarily think we have one mine. We think there's multiple mines to build here. So this is an asset that can generate value for a long, long time.
When did they start to reach out?
We've been chatting to them for a couple of years, so it's taken us some time to, as all the other copper majors are kicking tires on every copper prospect around the world. Yeah, well, you think you'd see more of that if that was the case, right? You think you'd see more major companies putting money into juniors that are out there looking for stuff. So.
And do they support you in a technical way?
Yeah, so post-financing, which will close likely next week, we'll have a technical committee, 2 Brixton members and 2 BHP members, a former technical committee that will really drive what we do. Make recommendations to the board. We've yet to get through that review and budget review for next year, but I think it's going to be largely copper driven.
But will that be a one-off, or will there be a?
It's an ongoing technical committee that we'll get through that and we'll have a better sense of the structure of that. They do, as part of that transaction, they do have a right to nominate someone to the board. So we've yet to get through that as well, whether they will nominate a board member. Financing is effectively closed. We're just going through closing docs right now.
And what's the total amount?
I think it's around $14.5 million. Yeah, 18-cent financing, but it's closed. I mean, for us, it was great. Obviously, no warrant, no finder's fees associated with it. It's pretty much a done deal. So we're fully financed for 2023.
Perfect.
Thank you.
One last quick question? That's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Gary.
Appreciate it.